So, you build this incredible, brilliant AI model. You launch it, everyone celebrates, but then what? What happens the day after? Or a year down the line? Well, that's what we're digging into today, the secret, constant work that keeps AI systems sharp and reliable. Welcome to the world of AI model maintenance.
Okay, just think about this for a second. That AI you rely on every day, the one suggesting what you should watch next, or maybe even one that doctors use for diagnoses. What happens when it starts to get things wrong? Not all at once in some big dramatic explosion, but slowly, silently. It just kind of loses its touch. Its predictions get a little worse each day. That is the huge hidden challenge we're talking about.
And this silent villain, it actually has a name, model drift. It's a totally natural thing. The world outside is always changing, right? New trends, new behaviors, but the AI model, it's kind of frozen in time, trained on old data. So the reality it knows just doesn't match the real world anymore. And that's when its performance starts to sink. The really scary part? If nobody's watching, this can all happen without a single warning, just quietly right under your nose.
So how in the world do you fight something as sneaky as model drift? Well, the fight actually starts way before the model is even released into the wild. Your first line of defense is what we call pre-deployment quality gates. Seriously, think of it like the AI's final exam before it's allowed to graduate and get a job.
And this defense isn't just one thing. It's got layers, like a shield. First up, you've got unit tests, which check the tiniest little pieces of the code. Then you have contract tests. These are like making sure two people who speak different languages can still have a perfect conversation. And finally, you get to the integration tests, which, you guessed it, puts the whole shebang together to make sure every single part works in harmony. Every single one of these layers is absolutely critical.
Now, these aren't just some boring items on a checklist. No way! They're often called the golden tests for a reason. They literally set the gold standard. This is the baseline, the perfect score, that defines what good even means for this model. From this moment forward, everything the AI does will be measured against this benchmark. All right, but here's the thing. Passing that final exam, that's just the beginning. The moment that model goes live in the real world, the whole game changes. We shift from one-time testing to a constant 24/7 watch. This, right here, is where the real heavy lifting of maintenance actually starts. The best way to think about it is like a doctor keeping an eye on a patient's vital signs. The monitoring system is always checking 4 key things. First, accuracy. Is it still giving the right answers? Second, performance. Is it running fast enough, or is it getting sluggish? Third, cost. Is this thing suddenly getting way too expensive to operate? And of course, it's always on the hunt for our old enemy, model drift. Okay, so you're collecting all this data, right? You've got streams of information coming in, but now what? What is the system actually looking for in all that noise? What are the red flags it's been trained to spot?
Basically, the system has a 3-part mission. First, as always, it's trying to detect that slow, silent creep of model drift. Second, it's looking for what we call regressions. These are the opposite of slow. Think sudden, massive drops in quality, where the model just starts getting things spectacularly wrong. And third, it's trying to identify anomalies, which are just the weird stuff. Those bizarre, one-off results that make you go, huh? Where did that come from?
So you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds important, but where does it really matter? Because let's be honest, in some cases, a small error from an AI is just a minor annoyance. But in other fields, it can be an absolute catastrophe.
Yeah, this level of monitoring is definitely not just a nice to have. We're talking about production-grade systems. For big enterprise software, it's all about trust and reliability. For a huge e-commerce site, millions in revenue are on the line. But then you get to things like healthcare and finance, and the stakes just go through the roof. A drifting model there could mean a wrong diagnosis or a disastrous financial crash. In these areas, reliability isn't just important, it's everything.
And there's always a but, isn't there? Getting this kind of Fort Knox level security for your AI doesn't come for free. When you aim for this kind of near-perfect reliability, you run smack into a really tough trade-off. So here's the balancing act you have to play. On the one hand, yes, you get incredible reliability and you can truly trust your AI system. That's the huge pro. But the con? All that constant checking can create a tidal wave of alerts and warnings. And pretty soon, people start suffering from alert fatigue. Where you've heard the alarms so many times you just start ignoring it, and that's when a real critical problem might get lost in all the noise. It's a classic case of too much of a good thing.
And all of this brings us to one final, really big question.
When we're talking about AI systems that are deeply woven into our lives, affecting our health, our money, our businesses, is there really any price that's too high to pay for reliability? How much is that trust actually worth?